This is Alex working on the RHET105 final project. The goal of this project is try to analyze the aftermath of the 2016 presidential election. It is apparent that considerable things have changed, and we'll start by demonstrating people's reaction to the election results.
This is the time for real wisdom. Lightning round.
If Trump wins, how about bursting into tears and screaming fuck for the next 45 minutes?
Well, America is crying tonight. I'm not sure how much of America, but a very, very significant portion, and I mean literally crying.
How did this happen? Experienced politician versus racist fake gynecologist.
Get your abortions now, because we're going to be fucked, and we're going to have to live with it.
You're awake, by the way. You're not having a terrible, terrible dream. Also, you're not dead and you haven't gone to hell. This is your life now. This is our election now. This is us. This is our country.
This is a different Earth today than it was 24 hours ago. It's a different place. It just is different.
I am not exactly sure how the world is different. Yes, the United States does have a different election result, and yes, the president-elect is an utter novice, but the reaction result was legitimate. It has been approved by the Supreme Court, and there has been no argument regarding the vote count so far. Then it is a legitimate reaction, and it's a legitimate election, and the result was legitimate. That's why people choose Donald Trump.
Woman who President Obama called the most qualified person ever to run for the White House couldn't break through. The question remains, who can?
Deeper concerns tonight that the world's shining light of democracy has gone dark.
Decency lost last night, and that's what's so hurtful about this.
This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against a black president in part. And that's the part where the pain comes.
I'm afraid you cannot call a person as responsible or reliable if she publicly discussed the nuclear response time, which is very, very confidential in the nuclear arsenal of the United States. During the presidential debate, Clinton commented that there's about 4 minutes between the order being given and the people responsible for launching the nuclear weapons to do so.
The deal. The bottom line on nuclear weapons is that when the president gives the order, it must be followed. There's about 4 minutes between the order being given and the people responsible for launching nuclear weapons to do so.
On the other hand, since Trump has assumed office, Trump has not introduced any segregation bill. Yes, he does not approve for same-sex bathrooms, but that is readily controversial before he assumes office. And he does propose, the health care bill he proposed has already passed the Senate, and the infrastructure building is on its way. So I don't see the problem as Trump has assumed office has been rather significant, as you will.
Americans. It is a mourning moment for those people, and it is a moment filled with fear.
Because I'm on this network and people know my attitudes about things. They come up to me and they're scared, depressed, despair, desperate even, almost clinging to me.
It was a rough night for everybody, I think. We're worried. The people are worried. Okay, he's the president. Now what?
It feels like we're trying to avoid the apocalypse, and half of the country is voting for the asteroid.
Is there a doomsday plan for a time like this? Am I right to ask about a doomsday plan? Do you see this as a doomsday scenario?
So if Donald Trump is democratically elected and your son is serving as a Marine, you wouldn't trust his life under that commander-in-chief? And Kane said, I wouldn't. That's a pretty extraordinary thing to say if you have a son in the Marine Corps and that you don't trust the commander-in-chief. The people in the military defend the Constitution.
I can't put a happy face on that, and that's my job.
This is the first time throughout this entire race where I'm officially shitting my pants. I genuinely do not understand how America can be this disorganized or this hateful.
I think the reason why people are so afraid of Donald Trump is that he does not play by the rules. And yes, there are there are several times where he does make outrageous comments, as we would discuss in the future following minutes. But overall, I don't think the fact that people are so outrageously and so making ridiculous comments on the elected President Donald Trump is, let's say, related to the promise and the future of Donald Trump as a president, but rather than afraid that, and the despair that Hillary Clinton did not make it to the office. The United States intelligentsia is, as always, a progressing force, and to a certain extent, Hillary Clinton does represent that. But on the other hand, there are, as I experience, fallacy with that. The United States is no longer has the best infrastructure in the world, and there are very many points that the politicians get bogged down to the ideological and theoretical disputes rather than focusing on with the actual targets. And that's why I think Donald Trump is a good choice, and that's why I think Hillary Clinton failed on that. And I think that is the very reason why people choose Donald Trump in the first place. As the electoral map suggests, the main voters for Donald Trump is around the rural areas where there have been few focuses among the politicians. And these invisible forces make up the, let's say, unimaginable victory for Donald Trump. And I think that's worth good points, because the main part is the mid part and the midwest part of the United States is pretty much left unexplored, if you will. The main economical power is along the coastlines, as we all know, and to be fair, the mid part does not have the adequate power of the United States, and it does not have adequate prosperity to it. And those people eager for change do not express their opinions until the election day, and then here's the results. And I think the elected president of Donald Trump will bring some decency to these areas, and which is exactly what these guys are hoping for. The Midwest states, the median states, all have some kind of fiscal issues. The healthcare plan wasn't the best for them, and they do wish to have something for a change, and Donald Trump does bring that. Therefore, despite the outrageous tweets, despite occasional, let's say, incompetence in political arena, Donald Trump is still selected because of the poverty people, the poor people who does not have a decent living standard. And to that point, that is why Donald Trump is being selected. To a certain extent, this is a political reform, an unforeseen reform and revolution of the United States political landscape. This is truly the time where the poor people has stand up and to raise their voices through the electoral system of the United States. And on that figure, as we can see from this very chart or map, if you will, we can see that there's a huge amount of people that below the poverty line voted for Donald Trump, voted for the practical promises that Donald Trump has given. So despite the objection from the intelligentsia, which namely are wealthy people and TV hosts and political commentators, they are all rich people that live above the poverty line, let's say, or upper middle class, if you will, to say the least. So they do not share similar concerns for those people who live below the poverty line. But those people made just a force for the selection of Donald Trump. And this is actually a bias created by the social media and news of the current era. And I do believe that this unforeseen revolution is further exaggerated by the social media and news and TV, because TV and people on TV and on Twitter does not foresee that, and they continuously say about these so that people almost take it for guaranteed that Donald Trump will now take office. But the actual election result, let's say, flattered a lot of people, and then that's why people do think that it is unforeseen.